I've been told that I come across a little gruff and angry because I like to raise my voice and I curse too much. So I try to come across with a different thing. For the agencies who receive this video, you can consider this to be my online version of a whistleblower act. And if I'm warranted to any reward or for information, I appreciate you let me get on that. What I would suggest really would be that the legislative session is in order for Tennessee State right now until like middle April, and I'd like for you to just send me up there and let me see if I can't get these people straightened out a little bit, because we need some changes made up here. We need sweeping ethics reform across the board. Hear me? For everybody. And this is what I'm going to tell you about now. It started back a few years ago, but a lady, she was a meth mom. I turned her into CPS. I sent to Decatur County, Tennessee, and I asked for a report to be made to me. Well, they went by, they interviewed the child at the middle school, the county CPS, they never did go to the home. 72 days later, I could not beg them to do a welfare check on her. Why? Because they had let her keep the child under the conditions that she became an informant for them. Which, this is bad business, people. This endangers the child worse, because it creates a bad situation where the lady is in fear or in possible reprisal from street gangs, drug dealers, and so forth. Plus, she can't hold no relationships with nobody when she's out here lying, cheating, turning people in. She can't be honest about who she is and what she's doing. It takes so much stress on them. It's bad business. And it makes the child left in the meth home, and it makes the conditions worse. What does it teach the child? That you can do meth, and you work for the police as an informant, and you go about your business, and they'll protect you, right? Wrong, it's bad business. It's not in the interest of the child. It's not in the interest of law enforcement. I don't care how much information she gives you, it's never worth leaving the child in the meth home. Now, I sent TBI down there, kind of a roundabout way, and they got it straightened out. The next business day, they went out there to the child from the home, and she got some help, and got things straightened back around. I did the same thing up here in Henderson County. And when they went out to the home, the officer, she says, Donnie, I wouldn't have done it, but they insisted that I file order of protection against you. Really? Me? The man who's trying to get her help? Oh, she probably already was an informant, wasn't she? Because they didn't drug test her. They went back 30 days later, just tested for pot, not meth. Well, subsequently, later on down the road, she gets caught for manufacturing. And then recently again, she gets caught for sale, possession of 5 grams. Well, what have we learned from that? The kids are still in the meth home, right? They're in danger. The mom is manufactured now. Now they're even in worse danger, just subject to the chemicals. It's not working, it's not right. We need ethics reform at this level. Now we'll go ahead and we'll drop that and we'll come back to that later. We'll get to our Henderson County clerks and our Henderson County General Sessions judge. Now, another instance, a petition was filed for an order of protection against me. I went to the Supreme Court website, Equal Access to Justice, or Justice for All, as is made by Rule 50 of the Supreme Court, that helps people who are disabled or poor or that cannot afford an attorney to be able to have a better chance of getting represented properly in courts. Now, there are forms on that website that you can download. One of them was an order, final order for an order of protection. And it says on the file, it says, if there is no sexual abuse victim, no domestic abuse victim, no stalking victim, or threats thereof, extreme threats, then there is no reason for there to be a petition or an order given. These laws were put out there to help protect those who are being abused. There has to be an abuse victim before that order can be properly issued. But they issue them at the drop of a hat. It's like a restraining order. They do it just any willy-nilly. You don't have to have a domestic abuse victim. You don't have to have a sexual assault victim or a stalking victim. That's taking the power that those orders were created for away from their purpose and intent. Now, I showed this to Steve Bill, presented my paperwork and my motion to dismiss based on these grounds during my hearing. And what happened? He ignored them. He asked the petitioner if there was any sexual abuse, domestic abuse, or stalking. They said no. He asked them if there was any threat thereof. They said no. And then he turns around. The petitioner wasn't the one that they were requesting the order for. It was somebody else. My sister was requesting for my mother. Mr. Bill turned around and then asked for, she wasn't present. So he asked that she have a statement made up, drawn, and notarized, and bring it back to him to review, and then he'd make a ruling on it. Well, he didn't set a court date for it. I didn't get to confront my accuser, and I don't know where that stands because I haven't received a completion of whether the order was issued or not. I haven't been notified. But nevertheless, I went back within 10 days of that date to file an appeal into circuit court. And I downloaded the forms from the website again, forms for indigency, forms for notice of appeal, forms for application to just postpone the filing fees until the end of the case hearing. And when I went to the court clerk over there, which, by the way, have been audited in the last 2 times by the state with their annual review audit, and it's been noted that they're in non-compliance with standard accounting procedures, that they don't work the daily totals in on the drawers, that multiple clerks are using the same drawer, that they don't account for the monies properly. Just to, know that. But she refused. She said, if you had the filing fee money, I'll accept them. But she refused to even look at my paperwork. I said, ma'am, I downloaded these from the Equal Access to Justice website of Tennessee that is supported and maintained by federal funds through the Supreme Court of Tennessee, who have issued orders that all clerks must accept these forms. They have put out many efforts. There's a coalition, let me get my notes here, that have gone around and give speaking agreements at conferences for judges and for court clerks. They've gone and sent emails, they've sent manuals out. I mean, they've worked hard to provide those who could not afford an attorney to be able to access justice fairly and equally. And the clerk just basically just disregards all of that and refuses to even look at my paperwork to see if it goes in there, and refused it. And I know that the Supreme Court has required that they must accept it if it follows the proper guidelines. But do they do it? No, they don't. It's the AOL coordinator and the ATJ commission that together works with that stuff. That comes from Rule 52 of the Supreme Court, that forms must be accepted by the clerks, right? I think, yeah, that's correct. Anyway, they just blatantly just disregard it. They don't care. So my clerks won't even let me get an appeal. The judge won't go according to the state law and according to the general law. He just does what he wants to, willy-nilly. There was a lady not long ago who was in the court, and she had a public defender appointed to her, Hewitt, I believe, and he didn't even show up for court. And the judge allowed his secretary to represent her. Now, I don't know what kind of representation you get when a secretary represents you, but it's not an illegal licensed attorney, I'm sure. But I'm sure he got paid for that too, didn't he? Mr. Bill also likes to, I'm sure he makes good money over here. I mean, the audit I saw was like 120,000 or 112, somewhere around in there. But he goes into Decatur County, practices law all the time, which, I consider that to be kind of a ethical breach. It doesn't look right. He's putting the wrong face forward. He's greedy. Now I know that technically it could be considered a part-time judge, but he's an elected official. I didn't elect nobody to be part-time, did you? I thought when we elected them, they're full-time to that position. Now the laws that were written that consider them part-time are the ones that go for compensation, how they're paid. I think that needs to be changed, repealed, right? Because he's general sessions judge and he's juvenile court judge. And I guess in cases he'd be the mental health judge also. So therefore, I say his plate's pretty full. We can look at how much he makes, right? And consider if he's considered full-time or part-time. I bet he's getting full-time pay over there. I bet he's filing for his hours, right, as full-time attendance. So if he's full-time employed, I say we are the part-time exclusion to allow them to practice law or be dropped. It'll be written out anyway. No judge should be practicing law. The appearance of it's not right. He shouldn't be having any professional work going on. I think that's grounds for disbarment. Oh, that would make him get kicked out of the judicial position too. He has many, many violations of civil, criminal procedures, and just blatant disregard. At one time, my sister-in-law had a DUI charge. It was her first one. She was nervous. I told her, I said, well, I'll go with you to your arraignment. He's just going to ask you how you plead and can you afford an attorney, and you basically bebop out of there. Well, I was about 20 minutes late getting there. When I climbed up the steps to the old courthouse, she was standing there in the line with several others in front of the clerk's office. I said, what are you doing? She said, oh, I'm guilty. I said, what? She said, I got up there and he called my name and he asked me how I plead and I said not guilty. And he said, let me see about that. And he looked at the paperwork and looked at my breathalyzer results, said, oh, you blew such and such. Oh, you're guilty, tapped the gavel and fucking put me out here. Oops, there go cursing, I didn't mean to. But that's wrong. I mean, he's done these things for a long period of time. Now, I know they got judicial review for these things, but you know, it's no good to get slapped on the wrist and kicked back down when he's blatantly disregarding the Supreme Court's rules, guidelines. The clerk's office disregards them blatantly. These are criminal acts. These are civil rights violations. These are due process violations. They should not be tolerated, and they should not be allowed to continue to hold them offices. They should be held accountable and punished criminally and civilly as the law prescribes and makes provision for. Now, then we can talk more about that when y'all come around to see me and visit me, because I know after I tell you this next thing, you're really going to get with it. Because when she had to file that order of protection against me because the officers made her, I made an arrangement with my neighbor over here to set up a meeting with Mr. Steve McDaniel, my state representative from here, Parker's Crossroads down here. I'm sure you're all familiar with the Steve McDaniel, his Civil War initiatives and so forth, battlegrounds, cemeteries. Anyway, more about that in just a second. My neighbor set up the meeting. I went down and spoke with him. I told him how the police officers had left the children in the meth home and using her as an informant. And he listened to me. We talked a little bit about it. He shook his head. Anyway, a few days later, I called him and discussed one issue of the meeting that, you know, did pertain to the children or the meth mom or being left in the home or the district attorney or the child protective services or the officer leaving the children in that situation. Like that wasn't bad enough. At any point in time, he could have picked up the phone, right, and made a difference. I mean, if it had been me, I'd have had the officer in our meeting right there just as soon as I could get him down there. Ask him why he felt he needed to make her file an order of protection against somebody who's trying to help the children and help her. That would be my first question. But now my question is, Steve, why didn't you do anything? You chose to leave them children in the meth home too. Nothing changed, buddy. She come over later, a few weeks later, tried to run a little game on me. I took her pipe away from her, called CPS again. I went to the district attorney's office, talked to the district attorney about it, said I just made another report because of all these events. And I said, I took her pipe away. She said, well, I can call a drug enforcement officer up here and you can take a report. I said, ma'am, do that kind of defeat the purpose? Anyway, She said CPS would be handling the second investigation I put forward, that it would be through the Carl Perkins Center. I thought, well, I got a chance now, because my sister set up the Carl Perkins Center in Lexington, Tennessee. So I thought, maybe I can get a little weight there. What happened? Nothing. I'd call and say, they could say they couldn't find her. I'd go out and locate her, say, I've got her, my eyes on her. Come here. Where you at? They never show up. So CPS, the officer, Carl Perkins Center, and the district attorney, none of them, and Mr. Steve McDaniel, done nothing to get them children out of the meth home. Did they? Left them there. Left them there in the meth home. Because mom's an informant for law enforcement. They think this is a fair and equal trade-off. I'm here to tell you it's not. Under no, what part of your mind do you ever have to stop and question if this is right or wrong? You don't. If you have to ponder to think on it, you're not possessing the capabilities and quantitative thinking that you're needed to desire to be able to make decisions on the street. It's not there. It's just not there. You don't need to be making those decisions. You don't possess the ability to, because it's always wrong. The answer is wrong. It's always wrong to leave children in a meth home, no matter what the situation. It's always wrong. Especially to use her as an informant to let the kids stay there. It's always wrong. Well, if a meth mom can be charged, and they frequently are, charged with child abuse or child neglect or child endangerment, then I would protest and say that the district attorney, the law enforcement officer, the CPS worker, and the Carl Perkins worker who are assigned to this case, who chose to leave the children in the meth home, are guilty of conspiracy to commit child abuse, conspiracy to commit child neglect, and conspiracy to commit child endangerment, and should be prosecuted as such, because there's no excuse for it. See, this is why we need sweeping ethics reform across the board, right? Now, I know these things are issues that we'll shake your head to and you'll listen to, but now we ain't touched the iceberg yet. I just been treading the water out, paddling to you. Here's the shaker. Because I looked at this stuff and I couldn't get no help from nobody, no matter how hard I screamed and yelled, how many emails I sent emails to every Tennessee state representative, to all members of the judiciary, to all U.S. senators and representatives and House members. And what happened? Nothing. 4 responses. I got 4 responses out of like 1,500 to 1,800 emails I sent. 4 responses. Most of them were deleted without opening or without being read. Some of them were read and just they didn't respond. You know, these are our people that are supposed to represent the citizens. Disregarded it totally. Didn't care. Didn't matter to them. Of course, I can kind of understand that when, you know, the attorneys, right, and the judges and our representatives write the laws to protect those who would do harm to us, the citizens, who would disenfranchise us, who would violate our civil rights and our due process. They're not held accountable for that. If a judge doesn't have any record for criminal or civil action, he goes before the Judicial Review Board. Well, most times they slap them on the wrist and send them back home. They don't punish them. Look, there should be, take that away. Immunity should be taken away from all people who serve the public. They should be held accountable. I guarantee you, if we have sweeping ethics reform to where you know when you go into that job, you hear me? You sign a waiver. You waive your rights. If you're found guilty of ethics violations, harsh ones, severe ones, mandatory life. Right? I know that sounds extreme, but it'll fix it quick, won't it? If you see your coworker committing ethics violations and you do nothing, you don't say anything, you're guilty of the same crime. You go mandatory life too. And look, that ain't enough. They seize everything you own, jointly or individually. You hear me? Take everything they own, all the property, sell it, put it into a fund to help the poor and the disenfranchised and those who have been robbed of due process and their civil rights. Because it's way across the board. And I know that you're really going to get concerned here in a minute because, see, I got all into Mr. Steve McDaniel's business. He likes to play with his Parker's Crossroads and his Civil War thing. Well, if you'll go to the Tennessee Comptroller's website and you'll pull down the yearly audits that are submitted, and you'll look for on the internet for loans, grants, and so forth, and the Comptroller's website for how much money's put in there. Supposedly, this visitor center / welcome center has been under construction for the tune amount of $740,000 for several years. People, it was an old gift land building where they sold t-shirts and fireworks. From 1973 is when it was built. It wasn't purchased before just a little around $150,000. They sealed the blacktop and raised property tax on it to $100, a market value of $250,000. But where's the other $740,000? Well, you dig around a little bit, you'll see where he's applied for grants for this and that, first one thing and another, supposedly for purchasing battlefield property and park property and stuff. And if you look for the Crossroads Municipal Building on the Tennessee website for property taxes, it's listed as Henderson County Court Executive Offices Building. It's where the state trooper station is, the outpost station is. It's a little bit wood metal building, right? Little concrete slab to it, steel door, one window, I guess. And it was confiscated or acquired because it was condemned property from a meth lab that exploded there back several years ago, shook the schoolhouse next to it. So condemned property becomes the Henderson County Court Executive Offices. And it ain't nothing, man. You look at that building, you'll be like, what, that kind of money for that? And then you look at all the other land transactions that have occurred for battlefield property, for cemeteries. Who buys a cemetery? That's usually donated property, right? Anyway, battlefield, parks, pieces of land. I think, it's averaging like $10,000 per acre. For real, he applies for these federal funds saying that they're matched with private funds. Well, if you look what goes in, what comes out on the reports, the audit reports, it ain't there. It's just the federal funds he's using. He didn't have that matching support. And look, get on the internet and look at his campaigns that he's submitting all across the state, right? And supposed to do the 150 Civil War year reunion. They got a big progression plan for all the counties in the state. Steve McDaniel, he's on there saying there's plenty of grant money out there for Civil War memorials and Civil War preservation and so forth. I guess there is. When you're committing fraud against the United States government, and all you have to do is look at the paperwork, you'll know it. Of course, he knows I'm aware of this, because if you'll go back and look last year when I made a statement to a TBI, Gary Asbel's daughter, Maggie Asbel, Autry, Manus, whatever you want to call her, she let it be dropped back around, and 2015 report ain't there. But the 2014 report has been filed 4 times. You hear me? Once, and then 3 revisions after that. Why has he filed 3 revisions to that report? I'm going to say it probably has something to do with the fact that he knows he's busted. He knows I got him, right? Because the Welcome Center, or the thing that they got down there for the campground or the battlefield ground or the Civil War park thing, right? Didn't cost no $740,000, and it never was under construction. It was purchased as a whole building. Fraud. The battlefield property and grounds. You look up the property tax records on what they sold and transferred. A lot of them sold for little or nothing, and have been recorded 2 or 3 times, passing hands at $0 before they were purchased up. Some of them recorded as purchased at $0 after the state bought them with the funds that Mr. McDaniel acquired through state and federal grants that he fraudulently acquired, because I know he didn't have matching private funds. You can't find the checks. You can't find the records. You won't do it. That amount of money is tracked, you hear me? Anytime there's over $5,000 in exchange of money, there's a report of it. $10,000, I think, requires even more extensive reporting. So it ought to be easy enough to track and prove this. So Mr. McDaniel, not only you, but the other representatives up there who helped file this paperwork and submit it for grant approval to the United States government, right? Y'all are all busted, you hear me? I got y'all. Y'all nasty. Y'all greedy. Y'all are corrupt. That's why you can't get a fair shake down here with law enforcement, because they know you're corrupt. Can't get a fair shake to the judge, because he knows you're corrupt. Can't take it nowhere, can you? Everybody's corrupt. They're wrapped up in it. Greedy, selfish, evil is what it is. Evil. This is why we need sweeping ethics reform. Laws. Hear me? These people that hold these offices, they're supposed to hold themselves to a higher ethical standard. They represent us. They perform services for us. They're supposed to be acting in our interest. I tell you, brother, it ain't in our interest for them to steal our tax dollars and benefit whoever it was that benefited from it. Because it wasn't me, I promise you that. I didn't get decent representation in court. Even though the Supreme Court of Tennessee promised me and had written laws to guarantee me that I would have fair and equal access. But do I? The truth of the matter is, sadly, no. Why? Because I can't get nobody to listen. So I'm appealing this to all you Twitter followers, all you Facebook followers. I'm fixing to start this a massive video campaign. We need sweeping ethics reform across the board. I'm sure the federal government, when they do runs and checks on these grants, and whether or not there's matching monies, and they see how he's changed the audit reports, right, had him file 15, when they go back and review the audit reports for the Henderson County Clerk's Office, when they go back and view my video records of court where I'm being disenfranchised and others, we can get something done here, people. It's going to take one of them special investigations. But while they're in session up there, if you'll just send me up there, right, I promise I'll make them act right. Because look, they're all guilty. They're all tied up in it. They're all dirty with it. You hear me? I've got them busted. The entire state of Tennessee. They're all busted. From law enforcement to the clerks, to the judges, to the representatives. They're all busted. You hear me? I can prove it. Their documents prove it. Not my word. It don't take but just a little bit to pull them up, review them. Now this is why Steve McDaniel votes against transparency in government. Right? This is why he votes that freedom of information, people have to pay for higher copying costs and access fees. This is why he votes and wants these things and chases these bills through our government, is because they want to hide their theft, their wrongdoings, their ethical violations, their illegal monetary gains. People, can you imagine how much money we would have out there to help people? We can afford to put an attorney in the courtroom just for people to be defended at no cost, at $10,000 an acre for property, right, Mr. McDaniel? I think that we really need to stop and look back. Now, people out here that's going to view this, I want you to take this into consideration. The website for the White House, President Obama, has a provision where you can file a petition with them, and then it gets put out for public review. 100,000 votes, but then I think it's a 90-day period, 60 or 90 days, something like that. 100,000 votes, right, guarantees that a law, an executive order, will be issued in relation to that petition. People, we just need 100,000 subscribers, right? And then we can get sweeping ethics reform. We'll make it so that there ain't no more old boys club, right? If you know of somebody doing dirty, you're just as guilty as they are, right? Just like if we drive up in a car and my buddy goes into the liquor store, he robs it, shoots the clerk and murders him. Now, I didn't know. He gets back in the car and we drive off. I'm guilty of murder too, ain't I? They sure do charge you and prosecute you for it. Same thing, right? These laws are pretty much already in existence throughout most systems and government. But are they enforced? No. They're slapped on the wrist and sent away. They're given diversion. You know, kind of like probation before they go in. People, there's no deterrent to bad behavior if you have no reinforcement, if you have no punishment. That's why we need them to sign a waiver, right, at the beginning of their election, when they take the oath of office. They know an ethics violation, severe ones, you're going away. If you see somebody and you don't report them, you're going away too. And then we'll have people go around and pretend to commit ethics violations to see if they will be reported. If you fail to report one of our actors, then you go away too. Same difference. It's failure to report. These laws already exist, but they don't enforce them. We need to change them and make them mandatorily enforced. Make them waive their right to any kind of hearing, of appealing, or anything. If the documents show it and the cameras show it and you're guilty of it, there ain't no doubt, you just go away. We'll call this, instead of practice the law or the study of law or the business of law, we'll call this the execution of law, right? We'll do a paperwork reduction act and so forth with it, and we'll just call it the petitioner finds the plaintiff or the defendant guilty, right? We won't put through all the steps. If the evidence proves it and there ain't no denying it, boom, you're gone. Permanently. You hear me? Then they won't do that shit. Excuse me, cursed again, I didn't mean to. But it upsets me. Now here's the reason why it upsets me. Because see, with law enforcement not being held accountable and the exchange of information that violates kind of our personal freedoms and rights, it's so sweepingly used. There's lots of informants out there. Lots of them. And they do all kinds of things that they get away with. Crimes of selling drugs because they're informants. They get away with crimes of abusing people, of robbing people, of stealing, of all kinds of mean, nasty things because the police officers, right, are protecting them. But it doesn't stop there. The TBI is in on it too, and they're just as bad. They know all these things I just told you about, but they've done nothing to change it or to file any charges against these people. Why? Because they're greedy, selfish, corrupt, and evil with them in the practices and matters also. Now, I prove this to you because I am not a TBI officer. I'm not a law enforcement officer. I'm not an informant. But I do know of an undercover TBI investigation in Parsons. I've already contacted the FBI as per to this. Now look, people, the reason why I make a point of that, and the reason why I'm making a point of this and stressing this stuff now, for real, we've got to have change, is because there was a lady who was left lying, supposedly from a fall, unconscious in the floor for 2 days with gashes in the front and back of her head. Unconscious, unresponsive. 2 days, 3 people at least walked over her body. Then after 2 days, they picked her up and put her in her bed, still unconscious, unresponsive. And then it was another 2 days before they called 911. When they got her to the Jackson-Madison County General Hospital, she was pronounced dead. The doctor said in his statement that if they got her 2 days early, he could have saved her. Well, see, all the information, the informants, the greed, the corruption, the sly, the working of underhand, the not being held accountable, the in-shote offenses, if you'll look that up, in-shote, I-N-C-H-O-A-T-E. In-shote offenses apply here. And they know I know. Why? Because I know about the undercover investigation down there, don't I? So I know that the in-shote offenses apply here too. They let that woman die. And the local law enforcement will not, cannot beg them to do a simple autopsy on that lady. Now I'm angry. I'm upset. I know I'm not screaming at it now, but I have been. But I'm telling you people, send me into the state up here. I'll make a difference. They're busted. They're dirty. They're corrupt. Their records will show and prove it. Now I know they're going to hide the law enforcement records, right? For the informants and their investigations. They're going to disguise and rope that shit up. But it's all family oriented. The TBI up here and the county, they're all in together. They try to rule and control the drug market. They drive suspects towards a direction. This is afforded under the laws of Tennessee and the U.S. The exchange of information and violating our privacy rights. You hear me? But they don't want to exchange the information and privacy of their informants, of their operations, of what they're conducting their business, do they? No, we need complete transparency, because when the TBI and the local law enforcement are running these investigations, they're causing people to get killed proof is in the pudding, brother. Will not, cannot beg them to do an autopsy on that lady. And one of the suspects that would be involved, which if they were charged, that is, because I know if it was somebody I loved laid on the floor for 2 days and they were walking around it, and it was 2 more days before they called 911, I would consider that to be negligent homicide at the very least, wouldn't you? I bet you would. I bet you feel the same way. If it was your daughter or your sister or your aunt or your niece, right? In either one of those situations, or kids in the meth homes. People, it's gone too far. We have to do something to permanently change this. The corruption, the evil, the death, the disenfranchisement, the manipulation of the evil and the wicked, of the greedy and the corrupt. It's time, people. This is proof. I want to see change. Demand change. Subscribe to the channel. Click like. Share it with everybody you can share it with. People, I'm telling you, this is time for change. Elections are coming up. This is proof. You hear me? The entire state of Tennessee violated up with the federal government grant money. Violated up for their own purposes. You hear me? What can we do about it? We got to have sweeping ethics reform. Join me. Stand up. Demand it now. I know a lot of people out there say they're scared to go against the local law enforcement. They're scared to go against the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. They're scared to go up against the judges and the representatives and the legal professions and the people who have office and power of government. Well, I'm here to tell you, I've been standing alone for the past 7 years, screaming this, sending it out in emails, standing up and telling it out in public places, right? They haven't done nothing to me yet. I have not a scratch on me, not a hit on me. I haven't been jailed, although there is some funny paperwork. If you look at my other postings, you'll find that. People, this goes real deep. Now, I requested the FBI to please send somebody out here to me so we get more in depth on this. Please, we need a big, bad investigation. Now, I know it's going to tear down the whole system, but we'll build it back better. We'll make it idiot-proof. We won't give them the possibility, right, of sliding through. Because if they're not being held to an accountable standard, they're going to try it. If they know that they will be mandatorily punished, right, they won't create them violations. They won't do them wrongs. They cannot be trusted to hold themselves to it. Because if you know you can do it and get away with it, slap on the wrist, oh, they can't prosecute you. Oh, they can't put you in the pen. They, they might take your office away from you, or they might suspend you, but or reprimand you. But they're not going to jail you or imprison you or take everything that you have and your family has, or they're not going to be severe punishment for it. You hear me? Then what do you have to lose by being corrupt and evil and wicked and greedy, right, and manipulative? Why wouldn't you? You have no recourse. You have no restraints. That's why it's out of hand. That's why we must have sweeping ethics reform across the board. You hear me? I demand it. You should demand it too. These things, proof is in their documents. The proof is in their recordings. The proof is in their records. Don't take my word for it. Investigate it. It don't take but a minute. I'm right. I promise you I am. You don't believe me? Ask them. They'll tell you, I do not lie. I do not cheat. I do not steal. I do not mistreat people. Nor do I allow anybody else to do those things. It's a hard life for me. But that's the way it has to be. I will get it done right if you'll just give me the power to make that change. If you'll just take the power upon yourself. All you have to do is subscribe and click with me. If I get enough subscribers and enough people watching and supporting, all you got to do is just click. When it comes time to do the petition, it just takes 100,000 people. That ain't nothing. That ain't nothing. That's just a drop in the water. People watch more than that on any time a video goes viral on YouTube. please take this viral. Let's take our government, our monies, our support, our services back from the corrupt and the evil and the wicked and those who are misused. Let's have complete transparency. Let's have ethics reform. Let's hold them to that higher standard with severe criminal and civil punishments, with mandatory terms of imprisonment, mandatory repercussions that they agree to before they ever go into the office. And those who have badness on their mind, they won't be there, people, I promise. It's the only way to end it. When the people who write the laws to protect themselves from their evil and their corrupt ways, when they write laws to prevent access to information or to cause high copying costs, when they write laws to restrict them ability to be held accountable, what are they doing? They're intentionally giving themselves a free hand to do whatever they want. And it has to end, people. It has to end now. We can do this. We can take it back. I stand alone. Ain't nobody took me down yet. 7 years I've been screaming this stuff. They ain't hurt me. They ain't damaged me. They ain't killed me. They can't eat me. They won't cause no harm to you either, I promise. Because when they see us all standing together, they'll have to give it up, won't they? We'll have presidential orders. Now, we need to go down there to Tennessee in session now with Congress and House, the representatives, and straighten this shit out. But I can't go in there alone. They disregard me and kick me out. They're laughing at me now because won't nobody stand behind me and support me. I'm telling you, people, the proof is there. People complain about taxes, about how government cheats them out of this, about high cost of insurance. We wouldn't have none of that if it was properly used on the monies instead of being fed through government official hands to benefit whoever Steve McDaniel's friends and buddies are. Civil War pies, I guess, because, you know, it damn sure ain't helping the meth moms and kids. It ain't helping the disenfranchised people, even though the Supreme Court demands it, writes it into law. Doesn't mean that you're going to get a fair shake when you take that paperwork to court and the clerks and the judge. They will disregard it and ignore it. Why? Because they're not held punishable. This is my official whistleblower notice. This is my official. Please, somebody, come help me. I need an attorney that's going to help me battle these people. I want to file charges against all of them. These are my official notice of charges, people. My video deposition. My statement. My name is Donnie Douglas. I live at 4500 Union Cross Road, Wildersville, Tennessee, 38388. My phone number is 731-602-2020. My email address is oaktree101@msn.com. My Twitter is oaktreebetty@oaktree101. Find me, people. Let's do this. Send me some federal help. Please, federal help. Federal attorneys. Federal auditors. It's time it stopped. We'll start with Tennessee as a test case because it's the worst case I can tell you right now. I've looked at other places across the country by going to the comptroller website. Ain't nothing like this corrupt stuff around here. It's evil. We got to stomp it out and take it away. It's simple. The evidence and proof is there. I'm not lying to you. I would not deceive you. Now, when you look at it, you ask the local law enforcement or these people around here, these judges, these clerks, they're going to tell you something about me that you're not going to like. They're going to tell you that I'm an intravenous meth user. And I'm here to tell you, I admit that. I admitted that on my paperwork when I was filed for disability back in 1998 and went to court in 2000 and received by the judge, an administrative law judge, a favorable decision. And that in those reports, when I spoke to the doctors, I was honest with them about my meth use. I was honest with the judge about my meth use. I did not hide it. The truth is the truth and it never changes. And you know, the truth is that even while he was general session judge over here, Stevie Bill, he represented me in that disability case, the meth user, the intravenous meth user, for 30 years. And I'm telling you, I'm not crazy. I'm not nuts. All of it can be proven. Let's do it, people. Let's take these people down. The corruption has to end. There's money there for you by filing the charges, by filing the complaints. The Whistleblower Act ought to cover enough for them grants. I think it was $700 and something thousand on the Welcome Center, $700 and something thousand on the last battleground purchase, and now he has it where he's going to apply for a grant to promote the cemetery out here for the Veterans Administration at the cost of $5.5 million. So he's going to put it in the sewer. The sewer's already there. You don't need a sewer in a cemetery. What do you need $5.5 million on Ryan and property that's already purchased and bought? What do you need $5.5 million for? When the military brings the soldiers to inter them, they're going to bring the crosses, the caskets. All you need is a backhoe, the honor guard and military transport, and bring all the rest of it. They don't need $5.5 million for that. Steve McDaniel needs to be jailed. Don't let him file for that, baby. Don't let him file that claim. Don't let him file that petition, that grant money, that proposal. He don't deserve it. He deserves to be in jail now for what he has done. And look at all the other people in the state. He didn't file him in by himself. There's more of them. It's conspiracy, and they should be charged as such. Conspiracy to commit fraud against the federal government. Conspiracy to defraud and disenfranchise and violate the civil rights of the citizens of the state. They should have due process complete. We need to waive their rights when they're in direct violation of Supreme Court orders and rules that govern laws of this state. They give up their right to be held in immunity, to be regarded as non-touchable. Well, the Supreme Court has the ability to, what is that called? It's not severate, it's provisional aid. It's where you take the thing and you see it. You don't call it, what's the civil case thing for it? Summary judgment. What's the other one? Procurement. Anyway, it means that you take all the information, all the evidence as a whole. You don't do it on a partial piece of it. You look at all of it in a whole, and then decisions made. That's what we need for all these people, to look at all of it into a whole, and then have the power to make the decision after all the evidence is considered, not just some of it or a summary of it, but all of it together. And there ain't no way that anybody can say that they deserve anything less than imprisonment, than to have their property seized and taken away that they got with illegal, corrupt, evil, wicked gains. People, join me. Have a nice day. May God bless you, keep you. For I know that my Lord, my God, has protected me from them for the last 7 years. Even though I stand to say these things, they haven't got me yet. They haven't hurt me. They haven't caused me no major grief. They ain't going to do nothing to you either when you click and like and share and subscribe. Thank you.